Welcome back to Copper Whiff, everybody. So we're coming off a pretty fucking spicy weekend, and to break down this weekend's fight card, I got my boy Griff here. Dude, what's going on?
How we doing, Wooch? Still buzzing from that weekend of fights, not going to lie. There was a lot of controversy, but still, I'd say the prelims was where it's at. I mean, if anyone who misses the prelims, you know what I mean, get better. Get better. That's where some of the best fights happen, I think.
Yeah, well, you know when you got Dominic Cruz headlining the prelims, you know what's up.
Yeah, my boy turned in a good performance too. But what do you think overall? Like, this was the card of all cards. We were comparing it, I'd say, to UFC 217. I don't think it kind of lived up to that in the end, not because of not necessarily the fights. I just think the results. Like, I think 217 just knocked out of the park because every result, and there's a bunch of other cards as well, like that go down in history as the best of all time. This one could have been.
This one was good, but I mean, like, you go back to 217, the 3 title fights that were on 217, every result was kind of the result you wanted. You saw Garbrandt kind of get
a
humble pie. Yep. You saw Jacek.
So did Joanna.
And you saw Bisping get some humble pie. We love Bisping though.
Yeah, true. Everyone who talks shit in that whole card and like that whole entire build up, the 3 title fights, all sort of ate shit in the end. So.
That was the talk shit, get hit card.
Yeah, and absolutely. This one was sort of that, I'd say. Like, as I said, it had potential. I think overall, from the early prelims up until the end of the prelims, it was like, oh shit, like we're in for that. It's going to be that kind of sauce. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're going to be serving up the super hot sauce. And then by the time the main course comes out, I mean, it starts off with my boy Rakic and Santos. And from there on, it just kind of went downhill, unfortunately.
Yeah, the main event was a bit lackluster. I mean, we'll get to the Rakic and the Santos fight. We'll start the early prelims, though, because it did start off with a bit of heartbreak with Jake Matthews losing, our very own.
Yeah. Look, it wasn't a good night for the Anzacs. Outside of your boy Kai Kara France, it was a bit hurtful. I mean, the same thing happened. I can't think. It was a fight night card. You remember when like Shogun beat Tyson? Is it Tyson something?
Pedro.
No, Tyson Pedro, and there was like Bam Bam Tuivasa lost his fight to Junior, and then like I can't remember. There's a one card where they stacked all the Kiwis and Aussies on it as well, and they all lost.
Yeah.
This was almost the case. Outside of Kai, I think all of them, took an L. But I mean, we'll start from the bottom. I mean, I enjoyed these cards regardless, man. Like, as we've said, like going through COVID, everyone's sort of in and out of work. The fights have been what's keeping the lights on, I think, for all of us as fans, for us, for podcasting, especially. Like, COVID has been time to thrive, I guess, for content wise, especially from coming from the UFC, and they really tried. You know what I mean? They can't always garner the results they want, but they can put together the best card they possibly can, and hope. So
hey, this was if any card's going to deliver on paper by chance, it was going to be this one. And I mean, it's not to say that it didn't. Like, it was still
and also
shit. But
look, there was only a couple of discrepancies outside. I think there was one weight miss. All the fights happened. There was no last minute changes. No
scumbag Askarov, dude.
Yeah. We'll get back to that. All right, we'll kick it off. I know you missed the early limbs. I was up at that absolute cracker dawn. You know what I mean? I'm here up in the upper beak. I hear the pterodactyls fucking clocking, having a good old yak in the trees. So you well and truly, wake up pretty quick up here. You remember what it's like up here. It's the fucking...
Oh, I know. Pterodactyls are the least...
Skull Island up here. Yeah, I know. They're like fucking little moths up here.
I like to think I did my bit for keeping the ecosystem down as a kid.
Yeah. That's what it is. You're raised different out here in Upper Beak. You know what I mean? Up in these filthy, treacherous hills. Mario Batista, Trevin Jones. I think I think it's Bautista, but I'm just going to say Batista. I don't Bautista. It's a little, doesn't roll off the tongue. Crazy explosive fight. Straight away. Bantamweight is so juicy, man. Like, there are so many crazy athletic prospects. It's the weight class that has just more talent outside of the top 10 than any other division. And meanwhile, the top 10 has like 8 former champions in it, or current champions at the moment. So
is it the most juicy, you think? Out of lightweight and fucking featherweight?
and welterweight. I mean, that whole run from
good.
from bantamweight through to welterweight, it's just, yeah, the talent that's coming through, not just even the UFC, all organizations through those weight classes is just outstanding. And this is a perfect way to start off the card, man. It's Bautista has one loss. I'm going to say Batista. I don't like Bautista at all. Batista Bomb's got one loss. He's coming in as a pretty heavy favorite. Trevin Jones, good wins, but also like a fair few losses. I can see why he would have been the underdog going in, but man, these two went at it. Like that's the way you want to kick off this card. Like sometimes you get put in these spots and you know what I mean? Like you're the person, you're the fight that has to kick off the card. And I know it's probably the least viewed fight across the board, obviously, if you're the first fight on the card, but I mean, you still have an obligation, I would say, like to really, show that this card's going to be something. And I mean, these two boys delivered. The first round was outrageous. They could have got a bonus just on that. If they gave out a bonus for just round of the night, there's a few fights on here that had outstanding rounds, but I mean, the first round of this was crazy. Two dudes just swinging at each other. I can't make the most technical breakdown of it because there was just so much happening. I'm not gonna lie. I get scared because I know I'm around about a bantamweight size in terms of like weight wise. I'm probably just a little bit bigger than a bantamweight. If I would, if I'm cutting weight and if I was actually fighting, and just to see how explosive and how powerful these two are. So Trevin Jones wins with a fucking uppercut or something like that. He wins with an uppercut, just one punched him, knockout, uppercut. The camera angle actually on like from the broadcast, you can't even see what hit him. Like you just see Bautista throw a fucking overhand and then he just dies. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just wait then. I'm sure he got hit with something. Could have been a knee, could have been anything. And just, until you actually get the replay, you actually see what clipped him. But it was pretty impressive, man. Trevin Jones.
Yeah, so I missed the early prelims. We know this, but I did do my due diligence as I should, and I watched like the highlights from the early prelims after.
Yeah,
it looked like
the early prelims were just all a highlight, basically.
It looked like Batista did work and was actually probably winning the fight until that moment as well.
Yeah, my boy with the mullet too. I mean, what can you do, man? Sometimes people just have like lights out power, or you just zig when you're supposed to zag. So, I don't
had a good game plan and it was working for him. So
I don't think either guy really lost anything there. Well, gained or lost. I mean, Trevin Jones gets a highlight real knockout, but I don't think Batista's going to really suffer from this. Like, it's not a career-altering finish. I don't think it's a knockout, but still, I think he'll recover. All right, so this one I was super excited for because Uros Medic was the main event of the first Dana White contender series of this of 2020.
It was the season 8.
Season 8. So he was
like, season 8, season 4. Sorry, season 4. I think.
4, I think. Yeah. That sounds more. That sounds season like 4. It. And so Medic was like the main event headliner of that first card that he did for contender series. And to me, he was the most impressive out of that whole season.
Yeah, I agree. His finish, the spinning back kick finish in the contender was nuts.
Yeah, outstanding. And so so did Cruz as well. Cruz had that crazy flying knee finish as well. So this was great matchmaking for the UFC to do. 2 contender guys trying to make a debut, trying to make a splash. And same thing, another guy who came off of that that fourth season first fight card was that, what's his name? Levitt. Justin, is it Levitt? Jordan Levitt. And he had a pretty spectacular debut himself. So
there was a guy for last week. What was his name? Ronnie Lawrence, I think. He came off that same season as well, and he was a fucking beast. They picked up some if you didn't watch talent. The contender series, watch the contender series. It's actually awesome. They pick up some serious talent. Cheyenne Bays is fighting next week as well. She's a bad bitch. Yeah,
contender is why I like contender to compare it to fucking Ultimate Fighter, take away all the reality bullshit, which is not a huge thing anymore like it used to be.
You literally beat me to it. It's what Ultimate Fighter really should be.
You have guys who are fighting for a fucking UFC contract. Like, that's what it is. Like, you see, they have 3 rounds to put on the most spectacular finish and the most crazy fights so that they can get signed to the UFC. So
everyone has a chance each week as well. It's not like the Ultimate Fighter where at the end, It's not like it's the Real Housewives of the UFC. Like, this is the contender series is the real deal. And there's more chances. It's, I don't know, you see better performances.
And I think because it's still young in its in its inception, we will see, I think, over if there's as many seasons of contender as there is the Ultimate Fighter, I think it's gonna prove in dividends that the Contender Series brings way more fighters. Like there's just way more fighters coming through. Like Dana White signs anywhere from 2 to 5 fighters a week. Some weeks he signs every fighter. So, I mean, and these two boys were absolutely needed to be signed. And I thought Udus Medic was the one guy from that whole entire season. I was like, I can't wait to see his debut, man. Like he is he looks like he's going to be special. And this fight was not actually a showcase of that though, because they were both just kind of went out in there and sloppily brawled until the other one, like one of them died. But I know that he's actually a technician and a wizard from his performance on the Contender Series. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what he's got in store for us next. Like basically he had such a fast finish, turn him around quick. This is still COVID. You know what I mean? We can still have these contender guys, you know, they're hungry, chomping at the bit, ready to get into the rankings, ready to start fighting some names. Let him have it.
Yeah, Medic has been fighting too, but he hasn't had a whole lot of octagon time, so he's good to go.
Yeah. And it took him a hot second to get, as I said, from the first episode of season 4 all the way up until now. That was a while ago now. That was mid last year. So he's taken ages to have his debut. What is it? Hanada Souza and Lemos. Good grief, Lemos is terrifying. Souza supposedly has the grappling. I hadn't actually seen or heard of it before. I hadn't actually seen her fight, but I'd seen Lemos fight once before, and I knew her stand-up was dangerous. So I just actually didn't pick this fight at all because I was like, I don't like to pick fights that I don't know the fighters. Like it's just kind of a silly thing. It's a silly thing to do. Even as a fight fan, like I could just look at two names, look at the records. I'm like, well, one has a better record, so I'll choose them. Not always the case. Like you kind of got to know who you're watching. And Lemos, Jesus Christ, she's terrifying on the feet. Like she should be getting a leap up in competition. I think she crushed Souza on the feet. Like
I got told that she not even close. Pretty bad.
Yeah, it was actually a fucking hellacious beating. And I mean, Souza looked like she had fine stand up. It's just she was facing someone who was just. It kind of looked like what GDR looks like at bantamweight and featherweight, where like unless she's facing Nunes, she kind of just crushes everybody in her stand up. Her stand up's just light years ahead of everyone. That's what it looked like. I'd like to see her fight the winner of like Angela Hill and Ashley Yoder, who I think are fighting on the weekend. That to me makes the most sense.
I'm a fan of that.
Somewhere in that. Oh, maybe Hill. Actually, you know what? There's a litmus test in that division, and her name is Tisha Torres. Amanda Lemos is 9-1, and she's about to get fed to Tisha Torres, and I think she's going to kill her as well.
I think it's tiny tornado time.
Yeah, it is. It's about time you get thrown into the little twister of
the whirling dervish.
Yeah, I mean, and I think Tisha's riding a pretty filthy win streak at the moment too. So like that could be fun. Next up on the list, I mean, yeah, we said it before. We said it before. I know as an Aussie, we should be rooting for Jake Matthews, but sometimes you got to bet with your up here. Yeah, I mean, you got to bet with your head. And from what I've seen of Sean Brady, he is 14-0. No, he was 13-0. And it looks like no one's going to have a fucking hope of stopping him, to be honest. His stand-up was more crisp. Confident, huh? He's as fucking powerful as fuck. He's got tight stand-up, and his ground game is... He spread poor Jake Matthews like butter on, you know what I mean, on some nice hot toast. Like, he didn't even have a chance. Like, every time Jake would try any kind of sweep, and he's a good grappler too. He's shown before that
Jake's an awesome grappler.
He's got a very good grappling game. And dude, Sean Brady... having none of that, not even having a copper whiff of that fucking Jake Matthews ground game at all. Like he crushed him. Sean Brady is who Bilal Muhammad should be fighting. I'm sorry. I love Bilal. I remember the name every day, but I'm just saying right now, Bilal Muhammad versus Leon Edwards is not my favorite fight. And I think Sean Brady should be that kind of guy fighting Bilal Muhammad. And I think Leon should be fighting someone like Wonderboy, like who's ranked.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but at the same time, I like Bilal Muhammad.
I like him too.
I'm liking him more and more by the day. I'm remembering the name more and more by the day. If he beats Leon Edwards, Leon Edwards has had a rough trot. I don't think he's going to beat Leon Edwards, but he's had a rough trot, and it would be cool to see Bilal suddenly take that next step in the division.
It would be cool, but I just
remember the staple name of the division. That'll be his next step.
As I said, like the only thing I can see playing a factor into that, because if I'm pairing them up style for style at their best, I think Leon crushes him.
No
But
doubt.
what I'm not taking into consideration when I'm picking that fight, and I'm obviously picking Leon, is that Leon has not fought for like 2 years, and he's had COVID, and he's gone through all different camps. He's probably just dying to take a fight, and he's probably, you know what I mean? How many times he's game planned for Woodley, Chimaev,
Usman.
now, yeah, I mean, like everybody. So, like, he's probably, as I said, just sharpening his own tools. I hope that he shows up a better version than we've seen, but a
He's
lot of the
sharpening
times,
those legs, dude.
yeah, I
Fucking the
know.
photo you showed
Yeah,
me the other day of
yeah.
his legs is ridiculous.
If we could pull that photo up on here, I would. Yeah, his thighs and quads. It looks like he can squat.
Looks like he's been training
Yeah,
in a camp against Usain Bolt.
it looks like he could squat a whole camp of fighters just in one big octagon and just
Yeah,
fucking put it on his
everything that's
back.
on his legs is actually meant to be there. There is nothing that is there is no
Yeah,
fat on
and
those
he
legs.
has that kind of frame where you look at him and you're thinking he would have kind of like Kamaru Usman legs.
Mm.
No, sir. He's got juicy fucking Christmas hams for thighs.
Yes, he does.
He's looking in good shape, man. And as I said, like if as long as he's in shape, and I think if he performs to the level he has been before against like Cowboy, RDA, Vicente, I mean, he's got a half decent resume. It's a lot of not top 10 fighters, but still he's been beating everybody. He should crush Bilal Muhammad, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyway, we digress.
Yeah, so go on ahead though. Sean Brady is going to be a fucking problem in this division. I do believe that he is going to. He's sitting where Kamaru and Colby were about 2 to 3 years ago. He's that exact same problem. No one wants to fight him. He's is the worst possible matchup for pretty much 95 to 98% of the division because no one can stop his like his takedowns, ground control. He's built like fucking Matt Hughes back at welterweight. You know what I mean? He's got that same like farm boy strength. Paul Felder has sung nothing but praise for him, just basically saying that outside of him having the best work ethic he's ever seen, he has ludicrous strength. Like he said, like I've never felt a stronger grappler ever. And also he is, as you could see too, he has pretty clean, tight stand up. He's powerful. He's tough as shit. And he's well composed. He's well schooled at I think he's at Rufus Sport. And he must be a nightmare to train with, I imagine. I can't even picture anyone, especially like guys like Pettis, who's kind of like the staple of that gym. Imagine what it's like for him, like Pettis, a former champion, to have to probably, fight and spar and grapple against someone like Sean Brady every day. That must suck. And I thought of a nickname for him too, by the way.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I think as everyone would have seen now, he's covered in tats, and like I like some of them. I think the tats on his legs look way better.
He's got the Oni tattoo on his back. There's a few people who have.
Yeah, I like the tattoos on his legs more. I'll say that. His upper body stuff, not really for me. But he's got. Look, what did you say? It wasn't Oni. Is that like because it looks like the devil? And I was going to say you might as well just call him Hades, like Sean Hades Brady.
Hades Brady.
Hades
No,
Brady.
I like it. Yeah, Noni. What is that? It's just
and
another
I think,
type of samurai. I'm pretty sure.
I think he's just going to be, as I said, like he's going to probably get the Kamaru Usman Colby route. Like he'll probably fight like a Damian Maia or a Robbie Lawler next, or like someone. I think he's ready. Like you can't keep putting him against other contenders at this point.
He's 15-0 or 14-0.
Yeah.
14-0, 15-0, 14.
Yeah.
He's 14-0. Like you start getting up into that kind of undefeated territory, they start chucking some kills there.
Yeah. And I thought Bilal might have actually been a good fight, but I don't think it's fair, for instance, if Leon beats Bilal, for then Bilal to be like, all right, well, yeah, I lost, but I guess I can just walk straight into this next fight, like do a fucking Rampage against Shogun or whatever it was. You remember like Rampage loses the title to Jones? He's like, hey, Shogun, you want to fight? Like in the post-fight press conference. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Do our job for us much. Moving on. Like Sean Brady, as I mean, what do you do with Jake Matthews? I mean, there's still plenty of contenders outside of welterweight he can fight. I don't really know a clear path for him to sort of even make the top 15 to top 10.
I would have to check who's unranked at welterweight. I'm sure there is a lot of people who are unranked at welterweight.
I think he can fight anyone. Sean Brady needs to actually start being a little bit more, selective of who he fights, because I think he's actually earned it. As I said, I think he's earned a top 15 to top 10 opponent. And outside of, as I said, the worst style matchup for someone like him is like Gilbert Burns, like just with that crazy jits game. Outside of that, or maybe Damian Maia. Outside of that, I think he's probably going to crush pretty much everyone all the way up to the title. I see him being in the title picture within maybe a year.
Oh, well, we'll see it.
Yeah, I want to see it. Okay, now this fight we're moving on. what's this guy's name? I'm going to call him Kennedy because I can't pronounce his last name. It's like Nichukwu or something. And Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg had a very impressive contender series debut as well. Izzy's main training partner, coming out of obviously a great kickboxing camp in kickboxing. Shout out. He looked.
Went from I saw this. He went from looking good to shit. To shit many times. Like it's like, oh, I'm back. No, I'm gone. I'm back, and I'm gone.
Who gassed out? Who gassed out quicker, in your opinion? Carlos Ulberg in this fight, or what's that big super gorilla alpha fuck who was that jiu-jitsu fellow who got submitted like a week ago, and I forget his name. Remember, Fluffy Hernandez submitted him.
Come on, dude. What's that guy's name? That wasn't last week, was it? Or was it before that?
I can't actually remember. I know he's built like a Greek god, obviously like a multiple-time world jiu-jitsu champion, outstanding jits. But I mean, he just gassed so bad.
Let me have a look.
Yeah, and I feel like Ulberg was the same. Like it looked like he was going to do work, and then Nchukwu was just kind of fucking Homer Simpsoned his way through this fight. Like terrible defense, high double forearm guard, and just ate a bunch of kicks, body punches.
Rodolfo Vieira.
Yeah, Vieira. That's it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Who gassed out quicker? Like seriously, that was not good.
Vieira
so Carlos Ulberg was fucking panting for air about 3 minutes into this fight. So he just gassed himself trying to finish Kennedy. Kennedy, as he said, like just did not look spectacular. He actually looked pretty terrible, if I'm being honest, but somehow managed to pull off the Homer Simpson effect, which, you know, you don't actually see a lot at this level often anymore. Like normally the better striker and the more technical, younger, more handsome, you know, got prospect and, you know, superstar written all over him, and he kind of shit the bed. I don't really know what else to say. Like,
it's disappointing when it comes out of when someone like Ulberg comes out of Izzy's camp, which has all the hype around it,
and this is a big debut, on a very
sloppy cardio and technical performance. Like it was, I mean, it was weirdly enough. Do you think it was an entertaining fight still?
Yes, I thought it was very entertaining. I just thought like this looks very much like a light heavyweight fight. You know, in aesthetic, it was the most light heavyweight fight you could probably ever imagine. It's just, as he said, like one guy looked like a much better technician, way sharper punches, using very clean combinations, especially going, as I said, leg kicks down to the body, back up to the head, uppercuts, everything that you want to see. But as you said, like getting tired fucks you over in the worst way. In the first round, that's not good. And as I said, you got to give Kennedy credit for having the heart to stick in there, defend terribly, but still manage to stay on his feet, and then come back to knock him out in the end. It's unfortunate, you know, because it kind of seems like the better man didn't win, but at the same time, the better man should have had better cardio as well. So, I mean, he's. I mean, I feel like Coach back at City Kick, but Huge is gonna fucking roast this guy once he gets back. I think he's going to cop an absolute hiding. But as I said, it could just be the bright lights, man. Sometimes the bright lights, it's your UFC debut. Maybe he performs outstandingly in the gym and just for whatever reason, under the bright lights, you never folds.
Know. Adrenaline dump or anything. But this is his first loss. He'll come back stronger from it.
Hopefully, if he didn't take too much damage. I mean, it was a pretty lethal slugfest there for the first round and a half or whatever it was. Right. Round 2, so he only made it about a minute 40 seconds into round 2. Gassed as fuck.
Well, let's get this last early prelim fight out the way, because I want to start talking about fight things I've missed at early prelims.
Well, there was something pretty big happen in this fight too, but not what you actually expect, with Tim Elliott and Jordan Espinoza. Elliott mopped the floor with him on the ground. Like, I mean, literally mopped him on the floor there. Like,
great wrestling prowess.
His grappling was very, leap years ahead of him, it looked like. And as I said, I'm no grappling wizard, so I can't really break down every single transition they made. All I could see was Tim Elliott was crushing poor Jordan Espinoza. But the weird thing that came out of this fight was, if you listen to if you were listening closely, as I said, to the commentary, and if you weren't slacking off like us, having beers and having a bit of banter, Tim Elliott was actually accusing Jordan Espinoza of being like a woman beater, and like they were actually going back and forth on the ground about, like, Jordan's like, I know.
What?
Sorry, like Tim Elliott was basically like, I know what you did. You're a woman beater, and like they were like, he's like, you don't know the whole truth. Can you imagine what that's like?
What's the basis of this? Is there like a story or something?
There must be, there must just be some strange allegation about that from prior. But I mean, Tim Elliott must have known about it and was just saying it on the ground as he was ground and pounding him and looking for subs. So that's
all right. So imagine how much harder you would fight if you knew the person that you were trying to beat up had it coming. Like if they did, there's not a lot worse than beating up on women. So imagine if you knew that your opponent.
Nothing worse outside of killing someone, probably.
Yeah, like if you knew your opponent, apparently I can't say that word. Opponent was a woman beater. Wouldn't you just you'd have all the drive to just beat the shit out of him in a fight?
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. I just it's weird to have that exchange of words during the fight on broadcast, right next to the camera, right next to the microphone, and then you kind of have to hear the commentators be like, anyway, better get going.
It's always so juicy when the fighters talk to each other mid-fight.
As well, I know exactly what to do with Tim Elliott after this fight too. I don't know about Jordan Espinoza. I'm sure he'll get booked another fight. Be interesting to see if anything comes of that whole, weird dispute they had on the ground there.
Mm-hmm.
But Tim Elliott versus Joey Benavidez.
Both been beaten by the champion.
Yeah, but I mean, Joey's also beaten Tim Elliott back in the day. I just feel like Joey's probably, if he doesn't retire, it should be one more fight. You know what I mean? And I feel like Tim Elliott's another veteran, long stay in that division, to say the least. Old Tim Elliott, now without the mullet as well, you fucking traitor. He offered, I think in the post fight, he's like, you know what, I'll fight Joey. I'd like to be his last fight if he's like thinking of hanging him up.
Good call out.
I like that. Two veterans fighting. Joey's got to win over him, so maybe run it back and see if it plays out any different now that Joseph is kind of, starting to fizzle out a bit with age.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyway, moving on. So that was that was just the fucking early prelims. This is the prelims now.
This is where it starts getting juicy. So this is the fight that you missed.
I actually missed this. So
you were on the way to see the fights with all of us, and you missed. This one was nuts. So it was Kara France fighting Rogerio Bontorin. I think that's a last name.
Bontorin, I believe.
Bontorin, yeah. Anyway, so this fight was pretty much all Bontorin. It went for almost one round, about 4 minutes 50 or something like that. And
4 minutes 55, it says.
Bontorin was just all over Kara France. Just, I reckon 3.5 minutes of that was Bontorin threatening the rear naked. So they were both on the ground, and Kara France was just fucking fighting the hands for 3.5 minutes, dude. And there was probably 2 or 3 times when he was locked under the chin. And I don't know how he got out of it. And then they stand up in like the last 30, 40 seconds, and Kai fucking knocks him out. Just over, I think it was an overhand right, knocks him out. First finish in the UFC, true to the name. Don't blink, Kara France.
Yes, sir. And a little bit of controversy after that too. I think Herb stepped in to stop the fight, and then kind of didn't stop the fight.
So he did, and then didn't stop the fight, and then Kai's doing his lap of the octagon, and he sort of sees Herb hesitating and around Rogerio on the ground still, and he comes up and he goes to Kai just sprints from the other side of the octagon and tries to load up a punch on him when he was down, and then it just stops at the last second. Continues to celebrate, and then Rogerio jumps up and throws his mouthpiece at him. It was entertaining. I feel bad for Bontorin, man, but again, that's the game.
That is the game. Just as you said, look at what happened to Fluffy Hernandez. He's like, taken down, looking like he's going to be in a world of shit, defended correctly, got back to his feet, and just fucking obliterated poor, what's his face? Hercules McGee, who'd ran out of gas. And that's the same thing. Like,
imagine that. Though,
man.
You're fighting, you've got someone's back for about 3.5, 4 minutes. And then with 30, 40 seconds left in the round one as well.
Yeah.
You stand up for a little bit and he just overhand rights you. And
I love that. I love that for Kai, though. Like, so Kai, I think that's one of those ones where you store all that energy that you had to be fighting for that round, just defending on your back, as you said, just looking for a way out. And I think a lot of that pressure has actually been applied by Bontorin, whereas like Kai defending probably doesn't take as much, grip strength and you're not gassing out as hard trying to get that finish. And once he got back to the feet, as you said, just unloaded on him, couldn't get away
I'm
from
happy
it.
for him. I think it was the Adesanya Costa card, all the City Kickboxing boys were on, and Kai was the only one to lose. Or actually, it was that Sean guy as well, right? What's his name? Sean something from their camp. Anyway, he was one of two guys to lose on that card, and now he comes into this card and he's the only one who wins.
Yeah. Yet again, looking at flyweight, I mean, he could fight Joey Benavidez as well. I mean, it's one of those ones where he could fight Tim Elliott, he could fight Joey Benavidez. Like the fight I'd like to see him is Manel Cape, the guy who came over and debuted against your boy Pantoja. Manel Cape versus Kai Kara France. You know what I mean? I'll watch. Of course I'll watch. Hell yeah. That's what I'm about. Two crazy, excellent kickboxers. I'd watch the fuck out of that. I'd love that. That's actually you know what? Fuck all that. That's the fight to make. UFC, don't at me unless Kai Kara France and Manel Cape are fighting. Moving on.
I like it. Joey Benavidez.
Another flyweight fight.
Asar Askarov. All right,
Askarov. Yes, you say scumbag. Obviously, it was the weight miss. Missed by a pound, so at least he tried, but still, it's still a pound and you're still a professional. The problem is with this is that Askar is kind of like the alumni number one contender, right? Like outside of obviously the two gentlemen fighting for the title once that is booked for a rematch, Figgy and Marino. Askar's kind of the next guy in line. And you beat Joey, who just fought for the title in his last fight. So the problem is, as you said, I don't believe you can get a title shot off of a weight miss. They've done it before. I just don't think that's meritocracy speaking. It's not right. Great.
And again, I mean, Jose Aldo got a title shot after a loss. So you just never know.
2 losses, I'm pretty sure. He didn't actually win at bantamweight.
Moraes, but
yeah, but still, I mean, it's still a loss. You know what I'm saying, though? Like, he's going to be tied up anyway, because I don't think Figueiredo and Moreno are fighting until June. And then, depending how much damage they take in that fight, then the winner of that, may fight Askar. If, for instance, if it's Figueiredo who wins, he might fight Cody Garbrandt. So, I mean, Askar might still, as I said, need 1 or 2 more fights. He's right up there, though. I mean, he was just, he was having his way with Joey, especially, I mean, on the feet. He had that jab in his face. He had that front kick, teep down the center, taking the wind out of him.
I mean, if it wasn't for Joey being able to sprawl and just move, like when he's trying to get taken down or he's on the ground, like Joey is out of there real quick. So if it wasn't for Joey's ability to sprawl, I think that fight might have ended earlier. Yeah,
and Joey's an outstanding grappler. It's just even then, like you're facing a Dagestani mauler there. He has that kind of background. He's got those kind of skills, and he's bigger and he's younger. He is deaf. That's another detail that people might not know. He can't hear his corner, but then, some might argue that heightens his other senses. And it also means that he doesn't get the pressure from all the audience, all the crowd noises and all the booing and all whatever else. Because, I mean, guys who are heavy grapplers normally do get booed out a lot. It's sad, but it's true. He's very impressive. I mean, Askar is very impressive considering, as I think Rogan put it best on the broadcast, he's not the most impressive athletic looking fella, but I mean, he looks about as close to a number one contender as you could, as you can be.
A little easier in flyweight too to be a contender right now, I think. So
yeah. So, but the narrative
to be a flyweight.
It is actually, the division's actually, I would say, been saved not by Cejudo, by Figueiredo, to be honest, because at least Cejudo. I mean, at least
bittersweet, right? Because you've got this open division, but that's because at the top you've got a man, a 120,
super exciting as well. Yeah,
a 125 man that's really like a 180. I don't know.
Yeah, 165. Yeah, that's true. The problem is with Joey, I didn't want to believe it, but I think after the 2 hellacious beatings that he took in against the current champion in Figueiredo, has completely knocked him as far off of his prime as I've ever seen a fighter, to be honest. It's like, I love Joseph. I love watching him fight. I've always loved watching him fight. He's he's got 28 wins, and most of those against pretty much every other flyweight that's ever been. He's had 6 title shots, I want to say. He's had 2 against Dominic Cruz. He's had 2 against Demetrius, and he had 2 against Figueiredo. Right. One of those was a weight miss, obviously, from Figgy in the first fight. But I mean, we still saw that like pretty much 10 out of 10 times he gets crushed. So he had his chance. This is probably the first time, as I said, he had to step away from that sort of that title picture and face a contender for, it's been a while since. And he got crushed again.
Father time comes to everybody, dude.
It's come for him pretty bad, man. He looked very slow. He's got an old style now. It's kind of, he's got his hands tucked. He usually leads with his head and then throws big looping bombs. Askar's, I wouldn't say he's even really defined by his speed, but he looked much faster than Joey. And that's sad. That's when because a style like that, an older style, like Joseph Benavidez, really requires a lot of speed and athleticism to pull off what he used to be able to do, which was pretty insane back in the day. If anyone wants to go back and watch some crazy fights, watch his 2 fights with Dominic Cruz, watch his first fight with Demetrius, watch those are just title fights. Go back and watch any of his other fights. I mean, he's a wizard. He's normally outstanding in the grappling and in the transitions. He's normally crazy powerful, crazy fast, really durable. And almost all of that seems to be out of the window now. And he cuts up a lot when he fights. It looks like he's getting the Nate Diaz syndrome, where every time he eats a clean punch, his face splits.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Joseph take more unnecessary punishment for a paycheck. Like, if he can retire now, I'd take it. Otherwise, you're going to be a gatekeeper, and
I think we're good on Joey. Joey,
had a great career, man.
He's had a great career. He's got lots of fans. He's had some really awesome wins. And I mean, right now he's going to go home and he's got Megan Olivia. That's a prize in its own right.
Absolutely. She is a smoke show.
She's a babe.
And unfortunately, I feel like Joseph Benavidez was the guy who almost had it. As he said, he's had that many title shots. He beat everybody else. He beat multiple fighters twice, 2 wins over Formiga, 2 wins over Dustin Ortiz, with Joey 2 times. That's what they were calling him. Beat Cejudo back in the day.
I love that name. That's a great name. Joey 2 times.
But Joey 2 times lost to the best of their generation. He lost 2 times to the GOAT bantamweight in Cruz, lost 2 times to the GOAT flyweight in Demetrius, and he lost 2 times to our current champion, who looks like he's going to go on to have a pretty Hall of Famer-esque career in Figueiredo. And now, as you said, now you're losing to these contenders. Probably time to hang up the gloves, man.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but I love you, Joseph Benavidez. If you ever hear this one day, you probably never will. But I mean, it's unfortunate. I see a lot of fighters like this. I mean, look at Robbie Lawler. It's the same thing. All the speed and power and explosiveness is gone. That monster inside that he had caged, that he'd let out in the 5th round, that's gone. You see flashes of it for like a second in that like Askren fight. You know what I mean? You see that like he's caging the beast. It's in there and then it's not there.
Yeah, look, your mind can't keep up with your body in its old age. We know this.
Yeah. All right, moving on. I'll let
Song
you line up for this.
Kyler Phillips. Awesome fight. And I think it ended in Kyler Phillips winning by decision. I think Song Yadong he had a loss coming. We know that he lost that Cheeto fight, so he probably had this one coming in the works. But awesome fight. They both slugged it out 3 rounds. Kyler Phillips, I didn't know who the fuck this guy was, and he come in looking really fucking good.
Beautiful. He looked beautiful.
You were watching. You saw how good he looked.
Dude,
he had a great performance. Sometimes, you can see a fight end in a finish in 1 or 2 rounds. There's some fights you just want to see go to the end. And this was one of those fights.
Well, when you have a chin like Song Yadong, you can just eat clean head kicks like shin to fucking dome, then you're going to see the fight probably go to a decision.
Yeah, want a KO? Song you don't.
Yeah.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
Dude, he has a crazy chin.
Yeah, I know. The fat lady ain't singing today, baby. You know what I'm saying? She never sings.
Yeah, Kyler Phillips, man, just good.
Beautiful
head.
I'm just going to say this. Beautiful head of hair.
Beautiful.
I mean, I know we go into the fucking male physique all the time, but man, that's a great head of hair.
Yes, it is.
I remember he was on The Ultimate Fighter, and he did not have that beautiful head of hair. And I think he's also fought on Contender. So I think he fought on Contender Series and he won by knockout and then didn't get the contract. He fought on The Ultimate Fighter, and I can't remember what happened, whether or not he won it or something. He went back to the regionals. Now he's come back to the UFC, and I think he's on a 3-fight win streak, and he's already ranked.
Yeah.
How many people get ranked after 3 fights? I think one other person, and that's fucking what's our boy Hamzat.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if he really deserves a 15.
Who's climbed the rankings quicker than Hamzat?
Kyler Phillips. That's what
True,
I'm saying.
but it's not like Kyler Phillips is 7th or 5th or whatever. Like, he's just breaking the rankings. Still, kudos,
Dude,
9-1.
but come on.
Crazy fight.
After that performance, I mean, Song, as you can see, was very limited to like kind of like small, stocky legs, chin of iron, and like.
Yeah, well, you said this. He was the punching power, and Kyler Phillips comes in there with those fucking long legs for the division, and you see it. The range and the kicks were there.
But like, not just that. I mean, he had an outstanding game plan. If you were going to give a performance of the night for just game plan alone, it's Kyler Phillips, man. Like, stay at the end of your reach. You always looked like every time he'd throw the kicks, he sets up his punch as well. And then every time Song would sort of plant his feet and get ready to counter, he'd duck under for a takedown and control. You know what I mean?
The takedowns were good. The grappling was awesome as well. Everything about that guy's performance that day was on point.
I can't wait to see. Like, he's another one, man. There's so many bantamweight guys coming up now where you're just like, give me anybody. Match them up all together. You know what I mean? I want to know. Like, everyone's obviously been riding the Sugar Sean O'Malley train as like the next big bantamweight prospect. I say there's a list of about 20 bantamweight prospects. Hayani Barcelos, Kyler Phillips is another one of those boys. You know, who did we just have? Casey Kenny just had his opportunity. He's looked good. Nathaniel Wood. The list goes on. You need to go through the list of bantamweights outside of 15 and go from 15 down. It is just murderer's row. Like, good luck even getting ranked. That's all I'm going to say. You have to get the right fight at the right time. No doubt. Otherwise,
Bantamweight's crazy. Speaking of bantamweight being crazy, though, and you just said about the Casey Kenny. Yep. Yeah, he fought Dominic Cruz to headline the prelims, and everyone's like, yeah, you know, Dominic Cruz won, looked really good. I don't think so.
Slower.
I think that Casey Kenny didn't look very good. I thought he was backed up by Dominic Cruz and maybe a little intimidated by the height and the movement and everything. Probably didn't use the leg kick enough to
He did for a little bit. He just forgot to fucking keep doing it.
How do you forget to throw the leg?
Well, I think
Dominic Cruz, he's reliant on his movement. If you take one of those legs away, it's going to make the fight a lot easy for you, and it just didn't happen.
I would say he didn't go to it, and then he did, and then I think Dominic made the adjustment to just slip his leg away. So then he stopped doing it because every time he throw a naked kick, Dom would just flick his leg back, get out of the way. But what Cejudo did, which was genius, was like he kicked the fuck out of that front leg, backed him into the cage. And then as Dominic was exiting, using that stuff to, you know, like go one way and then pivot out the other way, he would kick his other leg as well. That was the smart, that's why Cejudo is fucking Henry Cejudo. Like, you can't just kick the one leg because he'll make an adjustment to just get out of the way because he's still pretty nimble.
Well, as you said, as this fight was happening, Dominic Cruz is a specialist, whereas like Casey Kenny is sort of a jack of all trades, and they tend to crumble when they fight a specialist.
Depending, but yeah, he's a striking specialist. But I think y'all must have forgot as well. Dominic Cruz can wrestle, and he brought an MMA game to Casey Kenny. And Casey Kenny is he's, as I said, a meat and potatoes fight. He's pretty good at pretty much everything. No master of nothing. And sometimes you have to have that edge, as you said. Like Dominic Cruz has the edge, specifically in movement, defense, coming with funky angles. Mixing in the wrestling. I think Dominic Cruz fought a good fight. It's hard to, I think what it is though, as you said, it's not that Casey Kenny didn't really show up. I really think it's hard to look good against Casey Kenny in any facet, but so for Dominic Cruz to get a win at this stage in his career is pretty big against a ranked 15.
He's not as old as you think he is though. What is he? Is he 32 or is he 30?
I'm not actually sure.
I think he's still only like 32 or 33 or something. It just shows, man. He's not old. Let me just check. I
think he's 36. Anyway, still, I mean, it's a great performance by Dominic Cruz. It just didn't look that impressive because I still think Casey Kenny's very good.
Yeah, what in the fuck am I saying? He's 36, dude.
36, yeah. I think Casey Kenny's very good. I think Dominic Cruz is still very good as well. Has not taken a lot of damage to the chin. We know his body has taken all sorts of punishment. And yeah, as you can see, his physical gifts are starting to leave, but I do think he still has that fight, like that elite fight IQ. His style is still very, I don't want to say perplexing necessarily. His style still baffles a lot of people. Like
his style is still viable.
Yeah, you just don't know what to do until you're in there with him, and then you realize, oh fuck, like he's still got it. He can still move, man. He can still defend. He's still tricky.
Well, even only the best figured him out back in his prime, you'd say. So
it was 3 losses.
Yeah, only the best managed to solve that puzzle. So he's still
Yeah.
there. I just don't think he looked that good.
Yeah, I truly attribute that to, as I said, it's a little bit older and he's not in his physical prime. But Casey Kenny is hard to look good against.
Sprinkle some ring rust in there too as well. Probably he's had the Cejudo fight, but that didn't go as long as it he could have.
Yep. So as you said, it's probably not the prime. I think prime Dominic Cruz probably just would have styled on him. And he even considered it afterwards in the post fight. He was like, "Oh well, I feel like I just kind of beat TJ Dillashaw again." In that sense, like it's the same similar style matchup. I disagree with that, but I mean, who am I to say that? Talk about fighting.
TJ would have brought it to him a little harder than.
As I say, I feel like TJ is a lot more tricky and a lot more, a lot better than Casey Kenny personally. But still, if that's what he believes, then cool. I mean, the fight to make, it's pretty obvious. Frankie Edgar or Rafael Sunsao, but probably Frankie Edgar, right? Don't want to see any other fight. Those two guys just pair any of those 3 guys up. That's all I'm going to say. A Sunsao, Frankie, Dom. Pair any of them up, and I'll watch.
You want a little blast from the past action?
Yeah, 2 former champions. The Sunsao, not a champion, but still very good. Kind of the Joseph Benavidez of bantamweight. That was kind of where all the fun ended, I would say. You know what I mean? Like that was like the headline of the prelims. The fun kind of started to slow up after that. Like I thought after that, like that whole run of fights that we were on for maybe one of the best cards ever.
By this point, we're at the edge of our seat. Yeah. By this point, we're like, if this is prelims, what in the fuck
no shit.
is coming up for us?
And I have, as I said, I have the biggest hard on for light heavyweight, and I'm expecting super fireworks coming out of Santos and Rakic, which is,
Yeah, so this fight resembled a lot of like Derek Lewis and fucking Ngannou. They were both just kind of respecting each other's power and knew what was coming if they made a mistake, and they were not what's the word? They weren't willing to throw down or get busy.
Yeah, I would say that Thiago, in his defense, is kind of on the same fence as Derek Lewis, where it's like he actually has injuries from the past that he did not want to aggravate. I know Derek Lewis said he had a pretty fucked back in the Ngannou fight and just didn't want to throw. And
they are saying if you tear your ACL, it's something that will be on your mind forever. I mean, fucking Anderson Silva kicks his leg in half and he was never the same again.
Yep.
It happens.
Yep. That is true. But yeah, I mean, couldn't have put it better. Actually, I think Thiago didn't just tear his LCL, tore his MCL, his meniscus, his fucking every part of your knee that you can fuck up, he fucked up.
He left his knee in the octagon.
Yeah, with Jones, and almost debatably a win too. So I think that's kind of what happened in the Glover fight. Like his legs weren't under him as strong as they normally would be for the takedown defense, for instance, and he was throwing his hands because I think he knew he could beat Glover to the punch, which he did. But he wasn't throwing kicks. And then in this one as well, barely threw any kicks like he used to. You know what I mean? Like he would always have those capoeira kicks. I just think he's still a little bit tentative about where his knees are at. And so I think that, and having the respect for Rakic as a big problem in front of him too, slowed Thiago down. And I think Rakic really only won the fight because he was leading the dance. Basically, he was the only one. That's kind of what all I could see.
This fight was scored on pressure, I think.
Yeah, and that sucks. I like Alexander Rakic a lot, actually. I just think he's not won himself a title shot after this, because he called for it after the Anthony Smith win, and he called for it after this. And those are 2 big wins to have in a row. Thiago and Anthony Smith are 2 excellent wins to have in your resume. Looking at, going into the top 5 of light heavyweight, it's just, you're not going past Glover. And I think the winner of Yuri Prohaska and Dominic Reyes is probably going to be his next opponent. Or if the UFC want to be really filthy, they'll do Magomed Ankalaev. Whoo! That'd pretty crazy.
Very dirty. All right, well, you heard it here first. If that happens.
Otherwise, I think it's going to be Magomed Ankalaev and Thiago Santos. That, to me, probably makes the most sense matchup-wise. Because if Santos, I know he's on a 3-fight losing streak, but I don't think that's the same kind of three-fight losing streak that, for instance, like Joseph Benavidez is on, or like, like Overeem, even though he wasn't on a losing streak. Like, I mean, Junior, that was the time to go, right? I mean, 4 knockouts in a row. You got to go, son. You have to go. Thiago Santos, decision lost, finished by Glover, but I mean, Glover submits almost everybody, and then a decision loss. Like, I mean, he's not getting fired. I think
no way. Absolutely not.
They don't like three losses never looks good, but at the same time, I think he hasn't, it just does look like it's a physical thing. Like, it looks like it's kind of like he's just too worried about aggravating injuries that he's got. And I think if he had to actually really let it go, I think we would have saw a little bit more out of Rakic as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. If Thiago started throwing those bombs, I think Rakic would have been happy to oblige and throw back. But at the same time, I think Rakic's game plan was just to stay composed, pick and choose your spots. You got to watch out for this fucking caged bull, obviously, and just play the matador.
Takes 2 to tango. Takes 2 to dance. So, yeah.
Yeah. And they danced a slow waltz in this one.
It was a slow jam, and it was a little underwhelming. But hey, at this point in time, when we're watching the card, we're still on top of we're still at the edge of our seat.
Got a little bit of blue balls, but still.
We're not pleased, but we've got a couple of beers in our hand, and we're feeling, hey, we've still got 4 fights, and they're all on paper bangers. The next one being Islam Makhachev and Drew Dober. This was probably the most, in my opinion, apart from the Nunes fight, maybe the most predictable fight that you could imagine. You knew
I looked at it almost the exact same as like Sean Brady and Jake Matthews. I saw it going the same exact way, both those fights.
Jake Matthews was the mega Chad.
Yeah.
Coming out of a frat house.
Yeah. So go on. We'll talk about the beautiful chin.
Drew Dober has probably the best looking chin in the sport. It's the widest.
He's just just a ridiculous stud. Like, he's just out. Like, it's crazy how attractive that man is. It's for anyone out there, go have a look at Drew Dober, man. He has the most perfect chin you've ever seen. You could literally cut fucking diamonds on that chin.
And his legs, dude. You fucking see the guy's calves are ridiculous. You don't see that on a white man.
We're talking about fucking Leon's legs. Check out Drew Dober's legs. The fucking glutes and legs on that kid is, outrageous.
Unreal.
Dump truck, dude.
He's got that wagon attached.
Yeah, and at the same time, it did not help him lower his center of gravity at all for Islam.
He came in with a smile. He came in confident, and I respect that. But as soon as you step in, Islam is arguably one of the best Dagestani wrestlers in the country, I guess, in their land. And he comes in and he shows Drew Dober what's up.
I think Drew Dober is happy to fight anybody. That's why you see that big Chad grin on his face. You know what I mean? He looks like he's just about to play a really good game of beer pong every time he fights. And I just don't think he realized what he was walking into, because I think Drew Dober's takedown defense looked as good as it's ever looked. It just doesn't matter. When you're using the kind of inside trips that Islam's using and the kind of sweeps and the technical wrestling, like, just not even with technique aside, the fucking brute strength that Islam has.
Islam has the brute strength, and he has the experience because he's been around that wheelhouse many times. It's like all the fighters have done this stuff. They do this every day, but it's just Islam, man. He lives and breathes this stuff, man. He sleep wrestles. Like, it's his life. And even like old Uncle Dana was saying in the press conference after that, he said it best. He said that Islam had muscles on his back when they were watching the replay. Muscles on his back that just they don't exist. Before.
Yeah, you don't exist in other humans.
Nope. And he's right. You see it like in between his in between his lats and his arms and stuff. There's like another muscle in between those two.
Yeah. You grow that, you know what I mean? You grow that only out in the fucking mountains where they come from, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's to defend fucking bear attacks and Khabib trying to fucking maul you. You get that extra layer of fucking muscularity that doesn't exist on other humans.
Yeah.
And it has to be said, man, Islam is probably the biggest problem in this division. He butted Drew Dober across the fucking octagon for, 3 rounds. It wasn't even close. It was probably 10-8, 10-8, and looking to be a 10-8 until he got that submission. What did he even get on him? Was it like a shoulder crank or something?
It was 2 things. It was I didn't even know. It was like I'm pretty sure it was the triangle. I'm pretty sure it was a triangle. Like
Arm triangle?
Traditional triangle was yeah, I'm pretty sure it was an arm triangle.
Look, check that
From the
out.
top?
We better actually, make sure we get the submission correct. But what it looked like, as you said, like Drew Dober is a very willing striker. He's actually a very good fighter at this point. I think he knocks out a lot of the best fighters in the world at that weight class. Like he can stand and bang with anybody.
Arm triangle.
Arm triangle. There you go. And then, but that's what I'm saying. You're in there with Islam Makhachev. And from all I hear in the gym, not my gym, obviously, what I hear about from people, DC, Josh Thompson, Khabib himself, Deron Wynn, they say that he is as good, if not better, straight wrestler than Khabib. He's stronger than Khabib. He's not as fast, I'll give him that, but his striking is a lot cleaner, a lot more crisp than Khabib's. Khabib tends to be a little bit more wild than Islam's. Islam's a better kicker, probably got a little bit better footwork. So Islam's a lot more of a complete package, especially on the feet, but that does allow for, what happened in that one loss that he has. If he stays on the feet, there's more chance of him getting knocked out. Whereas Khabib hardly ever entertains any striking at all. Whereas Islam will entertain the striking to a certain point and just realizes, well, I can just take you down, hold you down, and not going to do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Nothing.
Nothing happened. Drew survived well in that first round, actually, I'd say. Like his defense looked good. His guard looked good. He actually ended up, in like the last 5 seconds of the round, he actually ended up on top of Islam after Islam went for a crazy submission attempt. What did he actually try and do? Didn't he try and stand up with the Kimura as well? I think Islam just reversed it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he tried, but no, Islam just had him everywhere on the ground. Yeah. There was nothing he could do at all. Like there's nothing else to say. Like Islam had him the whole fight. Did Islam even take a hit? I don't remember. So I don't remember him taking any damage. I don't remember him facing adversity of any kind.
And as you said, like his wrestling's just next level. You're watching him use some of these trips that are just outrageous.
Trips are just
his inside trip. Like the last time I saw an inside trip that impressive, like so effective, so fast, snaps it up so quickly. It's probably like Cejudo.
Yeah, you see Islam use it on the mats and stuff in training and whatever. You see him pulls off the Russian tie snap and all these advanced techniques. But yeah, it's just his knowledge on weight placement and
strength,
footwork, and everything is just as it should be. The setups to all these trips and everything is just as it should be. So
as soon as he's got a hold of you, it's over. Basically,
you're not wrong. Like he is a huge problem for the division, and we might see another Dagestani lightweight champion in the next couple of years.
I think he is the successor to the Khabib's throne. I really think that, the same path, he has the same path that Khabib had. Khabib did not have an easy path to that title. I think the UFC wanted everything in their power to not have him as the champion until he became the champion and became such a superstar and such a sensation. I think the UFC kind of looked at him as like, he doesn't speak English. He hasn't really got an exciting style. He just kind of mauls people. And Islam's been doing the same thing. He's just a couple of years later. And now I think Khabib's popularity kind of actually stemmed not from beating, who was his last fight? Like he beat the shit out of Michael Johnson. And then he calls out McGregor.
Who was Khabib's last fight? Gaethje?
No. So timeline-wise, he was meant to fight Eddie Alvarez for the title or Rafael dos Anjos for the title. Somewhere along the line, he's meant to fight for the title. I think it was Eddie, right? Because
it would have been Eddie because he fought RDA.
He fought, yeah, but I mean, RDA became the champion again after Khabib had left, but Khabib had beaten him earlier. Does that make sense? So Khabib was meant to have a title shot when he came back, and I think he fought like Darren Cruikshank or something. Then he fought Michael Johnson because Conor got the title shot against Eddie when it was meant to be Khabib's title shot. Then Khabib fought Edson Barboza and just ragdolled the fuck out of him.
That's rough.
So then, obviously, it was meant to be Tony for a while there, and then he ended up fighting Ali Quinta, crushed Al, crushed Conor, crushed Poirier, crushed Gaethje.
Yeah.
Looked the best he's ever looked against Gaethje. But that's the thing. Khabib became a superstar with that Conor rivalry, I think, which kind of shot him off into, into the atmosphere there for popularity. But before that, I just don't think the UFC really wanted him to be the champion. And I believe now Islam's kind of in that same boat. He's going to have to continually fight more and more contenders because I think the UFC are like...
The UFC can't market him being Islam very well. And on top of that, the grappling style is nowhere near as exciting. You just said it earlier that it's the most likely to get booed out of all the stars. I think the UFC, they're not going to say it out loud, but they would like a champion who can strike.
They want Conor McGregor as their champion.
Yes,
that's what they want.
Yes, they do.
That's what they want. You know what I mean? They want a Michael Chandler as their champion. They want someone who talks well, handsome, can promote themselves, exciting fighter. Not saying Islam's not exciting. I'm excited to watch.
I'm saying that a little bit.
I think he's an exciting fighter because I like seeing fighters who can shut other guys down. Like they're not going in there to be like, all right, we'll just toss the coin today, right? I'll go in. If I get knocked out, I get knocked out. If I knock out my opponent, I get, that happens too. I like fighters who are like, well, my game is so much more advanced than yours. So I'm not going to fight you on the feet. I'm going to take you down and I'm going to take you for a fucking ride. And you can't do anything about it. So I love that. I mean, Islam is as good an example as any. I think he does exactly what Khabib does. I think he has the same superstar potential Khabib does. He's just not there yet. And I think this many people in the top 10 are going to want to fight him. So we'll see. I would say RDA. I think you should repair that fight. Book that fight. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. I think RDA wants nothing to do with that.
I think RDA is sick that day.
Yeah. I will say RDA is having an RDO. You know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of here. Or I think he said he wants Tony as well. Let's be honest. That's probably not going to go well for Tony. It's probably not going to go well for Tony. I like any of those fights. Give him someone in the top 10, please, or top 5. But top 10. Maybe poor fucking Dan Hooker or Paul Felder's going to have to get that assignment.
Someone's getting an ass whooping.
Yeah, someone's getting it.
And we'll tune in and watch it.
I'm watching it.
All right. Well, how about let's hit the top 3. So we've got probably the most controversial and most to talk about in Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling. So in the 4th round, Aljamain Sterling gets hit with an illegal knee while on the ground. He did not have his hands on the canvas, therefore you can't knee someone to the side of the head. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. Gerder apparently got bad advice from his corner in the moment. He denies that afterwards. What can you say, man? Aljamain won the championship and took the belt. He elected to choose the belt, which is the thing that a lot of people have a problem with. Some people like to continue fighting. Aljamain claims that he was hurt and he could not continue and won the title. There was an instance like this with Anthony Smith and John Jones. Anthony Smith did not take that way out, you would call it a way out, and elected to keep fighting, and he ended up losing the title fight to John Jones. So it's like,
with dignity, though. With dignity.
Nobody talked shit about him after the fight, whereas Aljo right now is getting lit up. Yeah, big respect to Anthony Smith. But hey, like, you can't say, like, we didn't get kneed in the head. We don't know what happened to Aljo. We don't know how he was feeling in the moment. And again, like, I mean, let's just play devil's advocate. Even if he was able to continue and he kind of knew it in his heart of hearts, he is the champion now. And his next fight, he's going to get a significant, pay increase. Plus, he has a UFC belt to keep forever. So, what's your take on it?
In the books, he will always be considered a UFC champion. That will never be able to be taken out of the history books now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? What I think was the most prevalent, in my opinion, watching was that, in my heart, I wanted probably, I love Aljo. I would be so happy for him to win. I think this whole situation would look different if Aljamain was winning the fight, and then he took that knee, and then it'd be like, oh, well, Petr Yan took the shitty, like, he took the loser's way out. He kneed him in the face illegally so that he would, lose by disqualification and not lose, a hard-fought decision, or he wouldn't get knocked out. Yeah. That's not the case. Petr Yan, in my opinion, won the first. He dropped Aljo. I mean, Aljo and him went to
that was the thing, though. Early on, it was pretty even.
It was competitive.
Depends how you rate it. Like, Aljo was putting it on him in the first, but Aljo was the only one to be dropped, and it was huge.
Yeah, so I give it to Petr Yan in the first round. He did drop him. I think Aljo probably outlanded him, but when you get dropped, if you're scoring significant damage, getting dropped is about as significant as it gets outside of being KO'd cold, right? So I gave it to Petr Yan. I gave Aljo the second round. And then 3rd and 4th, Aljo's gas was pretty much gone. And he was making a lot of mistakes. got really sloppy. Hands were down. He's hitting a lot of shots, and Peter Yan just started to come alive. Aljo was giving up his back a lot. He kept falling to the sort of, falling loosely to the ground to try and bait Peter to come and engage him on the ground. And
he wasn't having it.
This
is the thing. Like, this fight could have gone into the 5th, and Piotr probably would have finished him in the 5th. That was my prediction at the time. But it ended the way it did, and like Aljo, though a UFC champion, he's getting lit up by everybody.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, like, after the fight, so he elects to do the interview, which, the UFC doesn't usually interview concussed fighters. He does the interview.
Sounds pretty good.
He's upset. Sounds pretty good. And then afterwards, he's posting pictures of the belt with his family, which I see both sides. Like, the families come to watch your fight, and you're going to want to celebrate, and they're going to take photos of you. But then it's the video of him squaring off against Triple C that, like, really is like, he makes that tweet like, I might fight, let's make this fight next. But it's like,
I'm glad you brought that up.
Don't do that. You don't do that. You didn't really win. You did, but you didn't. You won by disqualification. And now you're making, like, this little, you're trying to source a fight out that you can't have yet,
I'm so glad that you brought that up. That is where you're starting to lose the fans here, because, look, Peter Yan might go across as that kind of like the Ivan Drago, like he's the villain here. He illegally fouled Aljo. That's how he lost his title. I know that's how the rules work. I even made a comment on our post. I posted a meme. You guys can go check it out on our Instagram page at Couple With. How I looked at it, like, Aljo could have kept fighting. He didn't. He elected not to because he knew he was going to lose. And I think Mark Smith even said, basically, like, even though they were fucking whispering to him and the doctor, he basically said that, like, if he chooses not to fight, it'll be a disqualification and you will win the belt. So I think basically he must have just been, he would have been buzzed. He would have felt that, obviously.
He wasn't winning the fight, dude. He took the money. We all know he took the money.
Yeah, well,
yes, it's like that. I don't have a problem with that. Like, Piotr did something illegal.
Yeah,
he did something illegal.
Listen to how you're delivering this. You can just tell it takes the joy and the happiness and the soul out of you. It was this when we were watching it too. It's not fun to say because Peter did not do the right thing. It was his mistake. Was it an intentional foul? I think he intentionally threw the shot, but I think in his mind, I don't think he realized that, it was a foul. Like,
Piotr doesn't strike me as someone who's dirty. He doesn't strike me as a dirty fighter.
No,
he looked like a dirty fighter.
He's a mean fighter. Like, he's a savage, but he's not. Yeah, I don't think he's a cheat. I don't think he was looking for a way out there, especially when he was winning the fight.
Absolutely.
And also, another thing to mention on their performances is Peter Yan's takedown defense, like, the best. Like, it must be pretty far up there. He is a nightmare to try and take down.
Aljo was claiming he was going to drown him at the weigh-ins as well, and then I don't know.
Yeah,
Piotr looked like he had a fucking life raft around his waist, dude. He wasn't going.
Yeah. He had those. I think he absorbed that takedown defense from defeating Jose Aldo in his last fight, where he just took those springs in his hips that his ass would never even hit the ground. You know what I mean? He looked sensational. I thought, obviously the first round, he has that first round off to download the information. He absorbed a shit storm from Aljo, who just threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at him. But after that, rounds 2, yes, he still lost, but he started to get more rhythm. And then 3, I would say, I still thought Peter won, even though he took a lot of damage. I think he won round 1, as I said. Round 2, he took more damage and was throwing back more calculated, but just, I think Aljo still took that round. So 1-1, and then 3, I think Aljo clearly gassed, was making a lot of sloppy mistakes, throwing a lot of spinning shit, failing on the single leg attempts, kept falling to his back. At one stage, he even gave his back to Peter Yan. It looked like he went in for that, like, judo trip where he jumps in and spins around backwards in the air. I think they call it like the Intonagati or some shit, some Intonagati, something that they say, and failed miserably, which basically gave, Peter his back. I don't think he was necessarily scared, but it kind of looks like pretty sloppy tactic you're going with there. And yeah, by the time he got that knee in the 4th round, I mean, it was looking like Peter was, as you said, it looked like he was going to finish the fight.
If you didn't see the knee and you had to leave during the 4th round to go to, I don't know, you had to go to the shops or whatever, you had to fucking go to work or whatever, you would think that Piotr was going to win that fight.
Yeah,
you'd think it would be so close. He's about to finish him, or you'd think that fight would be pretty much over. And
yeah, I believe so. I thought Peter was winning. I think he's that's what bothers me the most. As I said, I don't like seeing him lose his title to someone who he didn't lose to. That's what bothers me. I know the rules say that that's how it's supposed to go. I would say that to me, what would have been fair should have been a no contest. Yes, he illegally struck Aljo, but I just don't think it's fair that Aljo can take the Oscar for best performance, knowing damn well that if he takes the easy way out here and instead of continuing to fight.
But that's the thing. We don't know. We don't know what Aljo was feeling. We didn't get needed. The shot was big. The shot was big.
It was big, but I think he could have continued, man. I mean, the shot that Anthony Smith took was big. And I think, as you said, Aljo spoke, he did not act like someone who had just been concussed. How many times have we seen, how many knockouts have you watched? 1,000? I must have watched 2,000 KOs by now after in the sport. People do not get up and are not coherent if they're concussed and their head's fucked. I mean, look.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Imagine trying to interview Ben Askren after the knee that he took from Masvidal. You know what I mean? Do you think he's going to be like, oh, fuck, I wish I didn't take this, this disqualification victory? And like, no, that's not what happens. He's concussed. He wouldn't, you know what I mean? You wouldn't know what day it was. Yeah. I don't like that. I think he was fully cognitive after a couple minutes. He could have taken a little bit more time to recover and then get back in there and finish what you started, which was basically a losing effort.
Fair play, but we just don't know.
We get a rematch. You better not be. There'd be no such talks as Henry Cejudo. I don't want to hear any of that shit. We get an immediate rematch as soon as Aljo's medical suspension, which I assume he got, is over. And you run it back.
Does that mean if Piotr wins, there'll be a trilogy? Or even if Aljo wins, there'll be a trilogy?
I think if Aljo wins, then there won't be a trilogy. Like, I think they'll count it as 2 wins, and then Peter would have to go to the back of the line. I just don't see that happening. I think Peter's going to win the rematch. Then they might do a trilogy, depending how it ends. Maybe Corey Sandhagen inserts himself into that conversation. Yeah. It's going to be hard for Sandhagen. This was like worst case scenario for Sandhagen, to be honest.
All bantamweight.
Anyway,
co-main?
Co-main.
Pretty much what we thought was going to happen. We've got Amanda Nunes and Megan Anderson going at it. Nunes, the GOAT, maybe in male and female MMA. You still got Khabib. You still got Jones. But still, female MMA, we got the GOAT in Amanda Nunes. And, Megan Anderson coming in a lot bigger. Is she the biggest person that Nunes has fought? Like, how tall is Duran to me?
She's bigger. She's much bigger.
Megan's bigger than Duran to me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And it shows. She looks like she's like a foot bigger. She looks like she's another weight class.
She is. She's as big of a featherweight as you're going to get. And Amanda kind of, just fluffs up for featherweight. So it doesn't matter. Megan, we love Megan. I'd love to interview her one day. I'd love to talk to her about her MMA and her career. It's just unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, you at any given stage, whoever has to fight the GOAT, you fight the GOAT. That's what happens. Look how many people have fought John Jones. You're all going to be a name on his resume. You never knew it at the time, and everyone
thinks they're going to do it.
Yeah, everyone thinks they have the special sauce until, as you said, she took one punch.
Yeah. Amanda can fluff up or she can shrink down, but there's something inside of her hands that just doesn't go away.
She's got special power.
Yeah.
For a woman, and I mean not this in any derogative way, for a woman, she hits as hard as a human being who is a female has ever hit, ever. She's probably the hardest puncher on a female puncher ever, to be honest.
I'd say so.
Nobody has her and Clarissa Shields would be the two the two hardest punching females.
There was talks of that fight happening
in the history of humanity. I can't imagine there would be another woman who could hit someone that hard. Amanda hit Megan once, and you could see she panicked. She was like, "Oh Jesus Christ, that came quick. That overhand hit me fast." And I think she shot a really sloppy double leg and just got completely reversed and submitted.
Yeah.
She got fucking
the submission. She got armbar triangle
and a triangle at the same time.
Armbar triangle at the same time.
That's how you know you had no business in there with her.
What? Like she got him with 2 submissions at once.
Yeah.
That's how good she is.
Amanda could take you all your limbs at once, I think. If you were anything less than Megan Anderson, she'd take every limb at one time.
Yeah, she saw Megan's legs. It was like, yeah, that looks like a good
start. It's a lot of real estate there. I could fucking go to those legs.
Tell me twice.
You know, I think the featherweight division collapses after this. I mean, if I were to say to you, this is what it's like having a featherweight division with no rankings, by the way. There's like 3 or 4 fighters there at the most. I think having a featherweight division there so that Amanda can be a double champion defending at 2 weight classes is kind of like Stipe Miocic having a 220 bout, a 230 bout, a 240 bout, and a 250 bout, saying that, oh, well, if he wants to fight at super heavyweight or medium heavyweight or whatever, he can just go between all those weight classes. Do you know what I mean? Like, because heavyweight's 220 to 265 is kind of the equivalent of having Amanda fight at 135 and 145. It's the same thing. It's just like the weight class shouldn't really be there. They should collapse that division. She's beaten every featherweight ever. There's no featherweights for her to beat now. There's no one there at bantamweight, really, outside of Juliana Pena, who keeps calling for that fight. She says this stylistic nightmare. Don't think that's the case, though, right?
We're just rehashing that. We're saying it in long words. Amanda's the best. She's cleaned out everything.
The only fight that's there.
We tune in to watch her beat people. Beat ladies every time.
What we're tuning in to see is like a fucking execution is what it is.
Yeah.
You're showing up each week to the gallows and watching some poor fuck get hung or have their head cut off. That's what it is with Amanda. There's only one fighter who can challenge her, who in that 12-fight win streak that she's on has given her any problems. It's Valentina Shevchenko. She's the only one.
Here's the thing. All right. Nobody wants the third fight between Shev and Nunes more than me, but I also think GDR could do it as well. GDR showed promise in her last fight.
She did, but she's lost 2 very convincing fights to Amanda, despite the fact she does look like the best, like the person who's given Amanda the most trouble on the feet, right?
Yeah, no. Even the ground, though, like I've said it before, on the ground, Amanda on top. Amanda was landing nothing. Amanda didn't do damage that fight. But GDR from the back, throwing those up kicks. Yeah, no, that was
the only way you could do that trilogy is if GDR fought her at featherweight, because she has 2 losses at bantamweight. She's not challenged for the featherweight title. So you would probably have to do that at featherweight. I think Amanda wouldn't care. She doesn't care not to have to cut weight. So that's how you do that. I just don't think GDR. I think GDR needs to clear out everyone else. She kind of needs to do a Holly Holm route, like even if you call it that. She needs to kind of just beat everybody else there before she gets that rematch. I would say, as you said, you have Shevchenko. If she beats Jessica Andrade, and I'm picking her to win that for obvious reasons, she's the most complete female mixed martial artist. Is she the GOAT, and is she as good as Amanda Nunes? She might be better skill for skill than Amanda, but she doesn't have the physicality that Amanda does. She hasn't got that.
Shev is smaller. Shev has more skills, but she's smaller.
But she's not as powerful.
But yes, we know that she is probably...
She's but she's as skilled of a martial artist I've ever seen, ever. Her skills across the board are outstanding. And she's the only person who's taken Amanda to 2 decision. I mean, she lost both, but it's debatable. Arguably beat her. The first fight, not as close. But yeah, definitely in their last fight, I think that's fair. I think Amanda's carried the 2 title crown for long enough that I think it's only fair that Shevchenko beats another former champion in Jessica Andrade. She should be allowed to challenge for a second title and become a 2-weight champion as well against Amanda.
I'm with you. I'd like to see it.
That's all I want to see. I think Amanda, if she wants to get paid, she can fight Juliana Pena and get paid. She can do whatever she wants. She can fight whoever she wants, whatever. But there's no clear number 1 contender in either of her weight classes. But I do believe the champion of the weight class below 135 is the only challenge that's there, that's feasible for the GOAT, as you said.
I'm with you. Well, kudos to Amanda. We want to see the Shev fight, but for now, you are the best. Congratulations
to her, too. She's a mother now. I really think that, we've always talked about Dad Cerrone and stuff. She's a mum now. And I mean, that was just one of her, I wouldn't say it's one of her best performances. It's as good of performances she's ever put out there. She just went out there and smoked her. So, she's got that big mum energy now. And congratulations, Amanda and Nina.
Oh, yeah. And now, the main event. the one we've been waiting for. This was tickling us for a while.
Yeah,
We got Jan and we got Israel.
Big consequences.
This was dude. It breaks our hearts because Jan, we love Jan. He's a great champion, great example of a champion.
Mm-hmm.
He won by decision, unanimous decision, I think it was as well.
I think it was a split.
Was it a split?
I think so. You can check that.
Anyway, so yeah, he fought Izzy.
So Israel's moved up.
The narrative is, Israel moves up to light heavyweight.
He's beaten everyone else.
Unanimous decision. We're trying to chase. He's trying to chase John Jones. We all know he's trying to chase John Jones, and because of this loss, it seems very more unlikely that we're going to see that fight, which is it's a kick in the nuts because
I think more people would
just fight ever right now.
The consequences of this fight were basically that's what's on the line. We want to see Adesanya versus Jones, but now that we've seen Adesanya versus fighter B, we'll say, for example, Blachowicz at light heavyweight, some of those questions have been answered now. You know, what happens if Izzy gets taken down by a bigger fighter? Now we know. And I'm not saying John Jones takes him down the same way, but truly, if that had been John Jones on top of him in those rounds, fight's over. John Jones would have crushed him, right? And that's looking not in hindsight. That's just straight up. Like, Israel is a middleweight. He could probably beat 95% of light heavyweights. It's just the best heavyweight on the planet right now is Jan Blachowicz. And Jan actually beat Israel at his own game, which is a slow, methodical, mid-range kickboxing match with a lot of feints, a lot of setups, a lot of kicks. They kind of did the same thing to each other. It's just Jan's game plan was actually thwarting Izzy in a sense, because Izzy's feints were drawing out a lot of defense. But the thing is, Jan's defense looked almost flawless.
Yeah, well, what you thinking? Why is that? Why exactly did Izzy?
I'm scratching my fucking nose this whole podcast. I excuse anyone who's watching. Jesus Christ, man, my nose is itchy. I know what's going on.
I didn't even notice, dude. I didn't even notice.
Jesus Christ. All I've been doing is this the whole time. So excuse me. I'm obviously a fidgeter in all our podcasts, but this time I thought for sure I'd be fine. But so fucking far, every 3 words I say, my nose is just as a little fucking bee in its bonnet or some shit.
You got a bee in the bonnet now? You got a few bats in the cave?
Either that or there's a big fucking cornflake booger just floating up there ready to be mined out after this. You know what I'm saying? Not going to do it on air, but I'm going to have to attack it after this. You know this.
Yeah, dude, get yourself an antihistamine or some bullshit after this.
True that. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, so why did Jan win? I'm thinking, so Jan has a bit of a Muay Thai background, right? And I'm thinking they like to keep their lead leg up and kind of keep threatening with with like the push kick and like the front kicks or whatever.
Yeah, weight on it.
Yeah, I'm thinking that was the key to his victory, because Adesanya likes to, chop your lead leg to force you to engage, or else he's just going to stay there chopping that leg down and popping you from range. So he sort of forces you to come close to him and come get it. But that wasn't happening with Jan. Jan was able to stay as far away as he liked, and he didn't have that sense of urgency because his leg wasn't getting destroyed.
Yeah. Well, Jan was, as you said, as measured and as patient as he's ever looked. He was biting on the feints of Izzy, but then Izzy could not capitalize after, Jan bit on those feints. Every time Izzy would actually try his normal, line of attacks that kind of, gives everyone else problems and fits.
Even Izzy's head kicks, they weren't money this fight.
Yeah,
but Jan defended them well.
Izzy was faster, but I mean, Jan was just a more. I won't even say he's more technical. He just had a better game plan. He was throwing a jab, which was catching Izzy. He knew that after maybe in the 3rd round, you could see Izzy's hands were a lot lower. He was catching Izzy on the end of his punches there, not doing anything crazy significant, but he was countering over the top. He had a jab that Izzy just kind of had no answer for. He was jabbing to the body and he was punching to the body as well, because obviously there's a lot of real estate going on here. And he was kicking Izzy's legs as he was changing stances. So as you see, like, there's different lines of attack for when fighters switch stances. And the best time to kick them is when they're changing their stance, because there's no weight planted on the leg that they're switching.
Yeah.
And I would say as well, like it was still a closely contested fight. I think Jan's defense looked better than Israel's. Israel's just relying a lot more on just moving and getting out of the way.
He does that though. He just kind of plants his feet and he bends.
Yeah, but it wasn't not having. He didn't really, as you said, there was no real answer for Jan's jab. And as you said, if you're fighting Israel's fight, you're fighting a technical mid to close range kickboxing match that's not very high paced, and that's what Israel is almost invincible in that sense. And Jan has just shown that he is he is so much better than anyone gives him credit for, man. Like
he's been an underdog in like every single fight he ever fights. He's always the underdog.
Yeah, you gotta. I know Kamaru Usman put out the tweet that put some fucking respect on my name.
Yes,
put some respect on Jan Blachowicz' name at this point, baby boy. You beat Israel at what he's best at. Yeah, I know it's your division, but at the same time, as you said, there was two. Once he took Izzy down, he shot a reactive double. You know, I think he realized, oh, so it's like that. Like Israel's not that slippery on the ground, and I'm probably 30 pounds heavier than he is. And I'm also a black belt in my own right. And he just kind of, Israel didn't have a chance to do anything on the ground.
So Jan won the fight. I thought they were 2-2 leading into the fifth, and then Jan's takedown, getting more than half a round of ground time.
But even then, even with the exchanges on the thing, I really do feel like in all totality of striking, Jan actually was doing the better work on the feet. He was landing the more significant strikes. Israel, as I said, it wasn't a complete wash. He made an excellent account for himself. He fought another very technical and very savvy veteran, someone who there's a lot of dire consequences for getting hit by. So he was able to negate a lot of Jan's power. He was feinting. His feints were working. It's just the defense, like once he had bit on the feint, trying to capitalize with those openings, there just wasn't enough. I take nothing away from Israel, man. You took a chance. You fought the best light heavyweight in the world, maybe potentially underestimated him slightly, just thinking that I could beat him if we're going to have this fight, and he did not.
Yeah.
Maybe underestimated, as I said, the wrestling. Like if you've been, the only other person who got him down really was Calvin, and like Calvin's a blown up welterweight versus.
And we've seen Calvin's wrestling utilized against Ian Heinisch. Calvin's last fight against Heinisch. His wrestling was in full display there, and it was glorious.
It's good, but it's a blown up welterweight wrestling you. It is not a heavyweight cutting down to 205 wrestling you. It's different. It's just levels to that kind of thing. There's physicality limits, and Jan is a fucking brick shit house, man. He is as dense of a human being you'll ever see. He's got no neck. He hits as fucking hard as you've ever seen a light heavyweight hit outside of like Rumble and, you know, some of those devastating. I mean, he could crack, man. He's got scary power. He's got like
Polish power, legendary Polish power.
And it's not coming that fast either. Like it's you can avoid it. Israel avoided a lot of it. As I said, like it's a huge congratulations to Jan. Couldn't lose to a better guy, honestly. I feel like, you know, humble in victory and defeat. Jan's as good of a guy and is one of the best representations of a champion that the UFC can have right now. Yeah. He's obviously not the bad boy that John Jones is. That's, you know, why John Jones sells a lot of pay-per-views and he's a big deal. He's a big name. But at the same time, you have a defending champion. He defended his title.
What a defense, too. Your first defense. What a defense.
What a great defense, as you said, against an undefeated fighter. Israel will always look at that as the one guy so far, the first person to beat him in an MMA fight. And at the same time, it was not a terrifying, brutal loss. That's a career ender. Like he made a great account for himself. He can go back down to middleweight as still the best middleweight on the planet. Jan Blachowicz is clearly the best light heavyweight on the planet if John Jones is not fighting at that division anymore. And bring on the Glover Teixeira fight once Jan has done celebrating in Poland. Probably, you know, he's got a child now. Obviously, congratulations to him. He's got that big dad energy now. He's got something to fight for. He's got his magic rope that he has, the hangman's rope that has
dude, do we want one of those or what?
Yeah, I want a snippet of it. I could use some of that juju in my life, to be honest.
Yeah, not wrong. Yeah, so anyway, Jan will go down. He'll fight. He'll go down. He won't go anywhere, but he's going to go. He'll defend against Glover, and then
and that's the right thing to do, right? That's what the MMA gods have kind of course corrected here. They're like, well, if Israel is the middleweight champion, and he's a light heavyweight champion, he's obviously not going to fight Glover. He's going to be looking for that John Jones fight.
Yeah.
I'm pissed, whatever he says, all the big, facade that he puts on, I'm pissing on this cage. This is my territory. This is my division. I'm the best in the world. We knew that was all going to come. He was going to try and coax John Jones to come back, and he was unsuccessful in his attempt. So all is right in the world now, because we miss out on a big fight. We might not ever see that now. And I think everyone kind of knows, especially if it comes to grappling, that Israel is going to get absolutely cooked on the ground.
Yeah, you could say maybe his puzzle's been figured out a little bit. Like, good, you still got to implement it on him. It's not like
good luck. I mean, not everyone at middleweight is Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah, 100%. It's not easy, but he's still
the best middleweight.
Chink in the armor has been noticed.
Yeah. That's true. And he will obviously take that as a learning curve, and he might tighten his takedown defense to levels we've not seen before.
Yeah. So Huge and the boys will figure that shit out.
Yeah. I agree. And then, as you said, so he'll go back. He doesn't really have a choice now for middleweight. You know what I mean? He was obviously avoiding the rematch with Whittaker and sort of saying, I've beaten Whittaker, I've beaten Costa, I've beaten everybody. There's no one there to fight. Well, Whittaker and Costa are fighting, and I don't think he's going to have any choice but to fight the winner of that. The only way I see that being voided is if Costa wins. Izzy will just be like, well, I just beat Costa, so I'm not fighting him again. Doesn't matter. So they might do.
Might even do it just for a laugh, dude.
Well, I think they will do the winner of Till versus Vettori. Will fight. I mean, and the things have to come together because Whittaker has beaten Till. So if there was if Till beat Vettori and Whittaker beats Costa, they're not going to do Till versus Whittaker again. They're going to do Whittaker versus Adesanya. But if on the other end, if Costa beats Whittaker and
Till still wins.
So yes, if Till still wins, then they'll probably do Costa versus Till. Winner fights Izzy. Or they will do Costa beats Whittaker and Vettori beats Till. And then they will do Vettori versus Costa. Winner fights Izzy.
Yeah, but that's what makes sense.
That, so he's got his work cut out for him. I think obviously he wants to fight Till, but Till just needs to get wins. I don't think beating Vettori is good enough to warrant a title shot, especially over Whittaker, especially if Whittaker beat Till.
I mean, Vettori and Adesanya, they already fought.
Fought too.
So
exactly.
You never know.
That's true. So how I envision it, I think if I were to pick, if I were to use, my fucking future sight ability.
Stephen A. Griff, dude.
Stephen A. Griff, my future sight. It's going to be Whittaker fights Costa. I think he fucking terrorizes Costa. I think he's a terrible matchup for Costa. I think he's going to obliterate him. And then he's going to get a rematch with Izzy, and it might be a closer fight this time.
I like it.
That's what I think. I feel like Vettori and Till are still a few fights away. I don't even know if Till beats Vettori at this point. I think Vettori is a pretty tough fight. He's a bit bigger, stronger, very meat and potatoes. And I think Till's going to have to be, Till's going to have to fight a very good fight.
Yeah.
So,
no doubt. Well,
and then, as you said, Jan's got Glover. And then outside of Glover, he'll have the winner of Prohaska versus Reyes. And I think Rakic is there. So I think those two will be paired up. The winner of Prohaska and Reyes versus Rakic. There's Glover. Maybe John Jones wins the heavyweight title and I think go back down to light heavyweight to challenge Blachowicz if Blachowicz gets a good enough record. I think that's what's going to happen. I really think that John Jones will eventually go back to light heavyweight.
Just to stick it to Izzy?
Just to stick it to Izzy to beat, just to go down and beat Jan to prove a point. But also I think he wants Jan to rack up enough wins for it to actually motivate him, for him to be really like, well, Jan has really cleared out this whole generation of fighters. Now I must go back down and prove that I'm still the man. You know what I mean?
That's with you. And man, just don't wait too long if you're Jones. Like I don't want to miss out on the Jones Adesanya fight and then also the Jones Blachowicz fight when it.
Jones going up to heavyweight. Yeah, Jones going up to heavyweight, I still think is a bigger option than all of those things. I think Jones fighting Stipe or Francis is bigger than Izzy and is bigger than Jan Blachowicz. I really believe that. I think when he fights either of those guys at heavyweight, it's going to be massive.
Yeah, we got to see how that goes first because those three fights up there, that's bigger than life itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to find out. I mean, Francis versus Stipe is at the end of the month, I think. Is it April or the end of March?
27th of April, I thought, or 20. Is it 27th of March? Let's have a quick look.
I heard it was actually. I thought it might have been this month.
27th of March, 28th of March. Yeah.
Yeah.
Francis Stipe 2. And what a fight that will be.
Wait, let me have a look. Where is that? I can't even see.
UFC 260.
Ah, okay. Hell yeah. And then Volkanovski and
Ortega. Okay, so that's still this month as well, which is crazy. Well, as you said, like, I guess that's the end of breaking that whole card down. There was a lot of things that came out of it. Another funny thing that we missed as well, Rakic got his brown belt for jiu-jitsu.
Yes, dude.
When that fight didn't even touch the floor. So that was interesting. I don't know how that happens, but I guess he looked more happy to win that than he did to beat Thiago Santos, which is fair. I mean,
that is fair. Could you imagine getting like
when
you're that far in your jiu-jitsu career and you get your brown belt? That'd be a huge deal.
It's just interesting.
Fights come and go, but there's only one time you get your brown belt.
That's true. It would have been probably made more sense if he submitted Thiago Santos.
Yeah, that would have. Yeah, no arguments from me.
Anyway, man, I mean, good. That was about as good a breakdown we could do for this whole card. As you said, like, we'll try and maybe do a predictions for next week's card a little bit later in the week. Maybe.
Hey, we'll do our best. We've got a lot of stuff going on, a couple with HQ. So, but yeah, no, we will do our best. We've got the upcoming B+ card that we'll probably make a video on, and and
that's
elaborate more on that. And we got a lot in the works. But no, it was fun breaking this down with you, brother.
Yeah, you too, man. Always a fucking pleasure chatting. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us at all platforms, Instagram, Facebook. We're all just at Copper Whiff. You know what I mean? Check out our last video. We had a interview with the boys from XFC Gym in Fountain Gate. We had Aaron and Khan join us, which was a fucking awesome. Shout out to them. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Go check out our interview. Check out our page. Check out our Insta. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
No doubt. All right. Peace out, bro.